knew my husband was hiding a huge secret, so I played dumb. But then, for some reason, he proudly confessed to it himself. My husband and I had our first baby 9 months ago, and for our baby's homecoming celebration, my husband's aunt gifted our child a huge and chunky knitted blanket. This blanket is so soft, and I've made multiple comments to my husband about how I would like to find a full size blanket just like this one, even joking that I'm kind of jealous of my baby. Well, a few weeks ago, my husband snuck off to the store, but he refused to tell me where he was going and why. I was a little suspicious, but pushed it to the back of my mind. Then, that evening, he suddenly said that he would like to have an hour of alone time every night after our son goes to sleep. He said it was because he doesn't get enough me time, and stressed that during this hour he would like not to be disturbed. I dubiously agreed, and although every night I wanted to run in and see exactly what he was doing, I trusted him and respected his privacy. But a few nights later, during his alone time, our son started crying. I went over to check the baby monitor, and it turned out my son had simply lost his pacifier and was going back to sleep. However, our baby monitor also shows part of our son's room, not just the crib, and it was there in the corner of the room that I saw my husband sitting on the floor. I leaned in to look a little closer, and that's when I noticed the bunch of chunky yarn in front of him. I turned the volume up on the baby monitor and heard a YouTube video on how to finger knit playing. That's when I realized the reason he went to the shop and the reason he wanted alone time was to buy yarn and make me a blanket, just like I had wanted. My heart absolutely melted seeing him knit for me. He's a giant man, 6'4", with basketball player hands, and the knitting needles looked so tiny in his grasp, yet he was being so delicate with them. I wanted to cry. I went back to the living room with a grin on my face like a high school girl who just got caught up with the latest gossip, and I sat back, so happy. The only problem was that my husband is awful at keeping secrets. He cannot do it to save his life. I knew he would tell me about the blanket soon. I said nothing, and it only took a few more days before he mentioned that his alone time was spent working on a surprise for me. My ears pricked up and I acted all excited, pretending to wonder what the surprise could be. I could tell he was struggling so hard not to tell me, so I let it go for the time being. But before I knew it, he was coming to me multiple times a day, solely to say that keeping the surprise was really hard and he wanted to tell me. I kept urging him not to tell me because it would ruin it. But then one day after dinner, he decided he just couldn't keep it in anymore. He took me to the drawer where he kept the blanket and pulled it out. "I've been learning to knit to make a blanket for you," he said shyly. Of course, I already knew, but it was still the cutest thing I had ever seen in my life. I almost started crying, telling him how much I loved it. The blanket was only about a quarter done, but it was genuinely lovely. The yarn was really soft and my favorite color. I could tell he had taken his time because the loops were so consistent. Even unfinished, it was perfect.